What's up guys, Boys here, and I'm finally back with another video. This time we are making an in-depth guide on Elemental Hit, how it works, and my current character in Incursion League, which I am currently level 89 on. I've been doing Shaper, I've been doing the Guardians, Red Elder. I haven't done Uber Elder yet, because I didn't have enough currency for buying all the Guardian maps again, but I plan on doing that in the future. So, yes, let's jump right into it and how the mechanics works for Elemental Hit. Elemental Hit is a skill that is essentially like an auto attack, but what it does is that it actually adds a lot of damage to the auto attack. However, there's a downside, and that is that it doesn't add all the damage, because every time you attack it chooses a random element that you can hit with. So for example, you can see here, this was lightning, this was cold, this was lightning, this was fire, this was cold, this was lightning, and so on. You cannot deal the same element 2 times in a row, except if you're using the combat focus jewels. And these jewels are what the build is all about, because with these jewels here we can block and force what elements we want the Elemental Hit to hit with. With the Compass Focus Crimson Jewel and the Viridian Jewel, we can block cold and lightning damage, so that we will only be able to deal fire damage. And this is really nice, because with Elemental Hit it actually adds all the damages before it chooses what element you can hit with. This means that conversions will apply before we actually are unable to deal those elements. So with Avatar Fire, thanks to Zelf's Blood here, we will be able to convert 50% of our cold portion and lightning portion of the skill to fire, essentially doubling our damage. That is furthermore increased with Call of the Brotherhood, which also converts our lightning to cold, and the Frostferno helmet itself, that is supported by level 30 cold to fire. So essentially we're converting 90% of the lightning portion to cold and 100% of the cold to fire, for a total of 2.9 times more damage compared to if you were not converting any damage at all. And then it's also furthermore increases to lightning damage, as you can see here on the Tempest Bow. That will increase the lightning damage portion of the skill, which then will be converted. The Frostferno is so good actually, because it also gives +4 to our Elemental Hit. Elemental Hit is tagged as both lightning, cold and fire, so the +2 to fire gems and cold gems will increase the base level. And since the gem itself, the damage scales by levels, and essentially every level is like 10% more damage, this translates to roughly a 6-link worth of gear, except it's cheaper than a 6-link, and if you corrupt it, you can actually make it like a mile better than any 6-link would ever be, because you can in theory corrupt this with the double implicits from the Incursions to a +8 helmet, which would just be fucking ridiculous. So yeah, let's go into the other gear choices here. We of course have Zov's Blood and the Call of the Brotherhood, but the other ring I choose to go with an Assassin's Mark on hit ring, because it's kind of hard to get power charges, and the base crit on these bows, the Tempest and Chinsaw, are not too high, so we want to get all the crit we can get. So since we don't the heralds, we cannot freeze or shatter. We can't really use a Herald of Ice because on hit setup, so we had to use the diamond ring here, which is fine, and I had it with accuracy as well, because we kind of have a little bit of accuracy problems. We're not a Deadeye, so we don't have that capped 95% accuracy. Actually, without my gloves and my ring, we would only be sitting at 84%. While with these two we're sitting at 91%, which is much better, and it also helps us since we are a crit build. Then again, since we have our we can have a 6-link in our bow and our single target skill in our helmet, we are able to use a Kael'th's Heart, which just is so good, like tankiness wise, and also gives us some fire damage, which then synergizes with our damage. We are able to reach 6.6k life at the moment. If I went up to like 5-6 more levels and picked up these life nodes here and got life on my other jewels, we'd be sitting at maybe 7.3k life potentially. We can Like you can hit almost 8k with like perfect min-max gear at level 100. So that's just ridiculous, like how high of a life pool we can scale with this thing. The Quiver again, you want life, crit multi, wed, and attack speed. This is also here where you want to get your resistances if you want to make sure that with the Vice Oak that your fire resist is the highest. My fire resist is not the highest on my main skill, but I don't need damage when I'm clearing in the AoE anyways. But when I swap over to my Chainsaw, set up for single target, I have a lot of fire resist on this Quiver, which means that fire will be the highest and we'll be able to penetrate. 15% fire resist. At the moment I'm not capped on my resistances, and it's kind of sad, but I mean I can clear all the content fine like this, so yeah. I probably should buy some better gear, but at the moment I don't really have any more currency for that. So yes, for the bows we're using the Tempest. It's just the best overall for the clear speed wise. Nice 1.95 attacks per second if you have a perfect roll, and also the lightning damage just scales the lightning portion of the skill. For single target though, you want to use a Chainsaw, because Chainsaw is absolutely the best option for single target. In private building, my gear at the moment, you're able to reach 3.4 million DPS compared to if you were using a Tempest, which is only 2.1 million Shaper DPS. We of course have ticked the frenzy charges because we're a Raider Ascendancy, enemies ignited, covered in ash with from our Soft's blood amulet, and we are standing close to the enemy. And we're all fast up, etc. So it might not be, you can't sustain that high DPS like 3 point something million, but if you spam on the flask, you should be doing insane amount of damage nonetheless to Shaper or any other Guardian or whatever. I've corrupted my bow with base crit for 1.1% additional base crit, which is just really good since the bows themselves don't really have the best base crit. Yeah. The belt, Stygian Vice as best option. The damages, added damages doesn't really benefit it. I would probably get attack speed if I've crit recently and some life instead, just for the tankiness. Because since we are adding like to 2000 for each element from the base gem itself, adding 100 more doesn't really add that much. It doesn't really increase the damage by a lot. So I should probably just swap this jewel out with some life and maybe attack speed for better scaling. The gloves again, attack speed, life, and accuracy. It is on an innovation base just because I was using Queen of the Forest before, so for that a little bit more movement speed. You want to get some boots as well with a lot of resist, movement speed, and if you can intelligence. That means that you don't have to go for cold-hearted calculation for the 20% intelligence there, because our gems will be needing some intelligence, especially the combustion support here, and increased critical strikes if you're using that on your AoE clear. I'm using increased critical strikes here just because 6% base crit wasn't enough for me. It was too inconsistent, so I liked a little bit more crit, but a Cold to Fire gem would be the best option DPS wise. So yeah, let's jump into the gem links real quick, and then we go for the skill tree and ascendancies after. So we're of course using elemental hit and wed, or elemental damage with attacks. It changed the name. GMP, Mirage Archer, and Chain Support. Chain Support is just really nice because it gives us way better AoE clear. You can also go Pierce if you want to, but I felt Chain was just so good. We have so much damage anyways that we're one-shotting packs even with the Chain Support. But damage would go way higher if you were to use another gem instead. And then over here on our single target setup we have Elemental Hit, Fire Penetration, Elemental Damage with attacks again, and Combustion. You could, in theory, if you had a 6-link bow along with your single target setup, which I don't because mine is corrupted, you could go with Combustion and Mirage Archer on your AoE clear here and swap out another gem, because you will be proccing the minus 20% resist from your AoE skill, and you could use another gem over here. That is a possibility. And then we're using Cosmic Damage taking Immortal Call and Increased Duration, which synergizes really well since we are oh, it's the Pantheon. With the Arachnoxia Pantheon here, 50% increased recovery rate of life if we have stopped taking damage over time recently. Since we're using Blood Rage, that is the physical damage over time, the Immortal Call will stop us from taking our degen, which will proc the 50% increased recovery rate, which is like 50% more multiplier to our maximum leech per second. And since we are already using Wild Pact, Along with the Slayer Leech, we have like permanent insane regen. We have 40% max leech per second here, and with 50% increase, that's 60% potential regen per second, which is really good with 6.6k base life. And then we're also using a pole gem just because I ran out of scrolls all the time, a blink arrow, and a Val haste. Because we're using, like, there's not really many gems that will scale our build, so you can use some defensive auras or haste. I use that for movement speed and some attack speed, and for the Val haste buff we occasionally will get. You could also use a Val Grace if you want more defensive options, and I used Val Grace when I was running with Queen of the Forest. Queen of the Forest is really good also because it of course increases our resistances as well, and that's also the reason why my resists are not capped at the moment, because they were capped with my Queen of the Forest and I didn't change my gear. So yeah, let's go into the skill tree real quick. Let's start off with this and see why did we choose Scion over Raider. Oh, not Raider, Deadeye. Deadeye is the best, like, for clear speed wise. It has free chain, it has good accuracy, which increases the crit chance as well. It has the Tailwind for the sexy movement speed buffs, and it has what does it have? Additional projectile? No. A far shot. Okay, that doesn't really benefit us, but yeah, it does have far shot as well. But the reason we chose Scion is because we have access to the juicy life nodes down here, which we furthermore can improve with Might of the Meek jewels, and we also have some really good crit multi jewels attack speed nodes here, and some easy access to resists. Because we're using a lot of unique items, resists can be a pain in the ass to get, at least if you're going for your Wise Oak Flask and you may want to make sure that fire resist is the highest element. You can make sure that if you just pick this node right here. Then for the Ascendancy points, we're also having Frenzy charges on boss fights, because we get that if you hit a rare unique enemy. That means also we have permanent onslaught, which is also almost as good as the Raider, like Deadeye buffs with Tailwind buffs. And we also have 10% movement speed and some dodge. We also then again we take the have the Ranger, so we don't miss out on any of the right side of the tree nodes without wasting like 7 points to travel here. And then we have the sexy Slayer Leech as well, which just synergizes so well with the Val Pact, the Blood Rage, and the Pantheon here, and also just like makes us able to, even though we have full life, we will still be leeching and having a permanent buffer for our life regen. We also get Culling Strike and AoE. AoE is really nice as well, since I forgot to mention that Elemental Hit does actually, if you hit an ignited enemy, you will be dealing a little AoE explosion, and that is multiplied by 20% with the AoE from the Slayer. So yeah, let's go into the skill tree really quick, and I think that will be all for the video. So we start off picking all of the nodes over here in the Scion tree. The resist, you don't have to pick them if you have some decent twink leveling gear. Jewel sockets, only pick them up if you have some really good jewels. And then you want to use all these points here to go down and grab the Ranger starting nodes. Later you will be respecking these nodes once you get your Merciless lab done. But before that you have to waste some points, and that's just how it is. Scion is a little bit awkward for leveling, but again it makes up for it in the end game. And then again, you wanna, like, once you start to level with Elemental Hit, I didn't level with Elemental Hit, I actually leveled with a Rain of Arrows. I used Elemental Hit like from level 60 or something. So just make sure you have the 2 jewel sockets once you are ready to use Elemental Hit. And then just the generic tree here. If you need intelligence, grab this node here. If you need more strength, you can pick this up as I did here for the Kim's Heart, or pick up Master of the Arena over here. Yeah. And you can also go face accurate if you want that for hardcore. Build is pretty tanky though already, so it's not necessary. Also, if you want even more life, you can pick up the life nodes over here, and then the penetration, forces of nature, or pick up the cold heart calculation for the int and grab the written in blood life here. So there's really many options for getting even more life and potentially reaching over 8k life. But yeah guys, I think that's it for today. Thank you so much for watching this guide, and stay tuned for more content as always. Thank you so much for watching, guys, and peace out.